Today we're making a chicken with creamy garlic sauce. We're going to start off with prepping all our ingredients. We have the chicken right here and all our ingredients in the order of how we're going to be prepping it. Let's go ahead and dry our protein. Give it a good press with your paper towels. Okay, I'm wearing gloves in this scenario for protein. Go ahead and take off the paper towel, ensuring that the protein is very dry. Put it in your trash bin. Go ahead and season with your non-glove hand so you don't cross-contaminate. A little salt and pepper on both sides. Okay, and we'll go ahead and heat our pan. While our pan is heating, we'll go ahead and dredge it with some flour. And you just need a little bit just to do a nice coating. This is your thickening agent for the sauce. So as long as there's a thin coating, you want to also dust off any excess flour. Once it's dredged, you can add a little oil in your pan. You learned in sauté week that your pan should have at least a thin coat of oil. Okay, the pan is nice and hot now. You can see a little smoke coming around the pan, as well as the viscosity of the oil is very thin, and you can see ripples coming in the oil. We take our chicken, lower down the heat a little bit, and go ahead and place it away from you. Go ahead and press down on the chicken so that the skin crisps up. When you first initially put the protein down, the skin will curl, but by pressing on the protein, it will help have the protein skin relax. A key component is to make sure that your flour does not burn. So having a medium heat in the pan on this range is a good idea. You can also use a metal spatula or a spoon. You do not have to just use tongs. Remember to be looking at the edge of the protein where it touches the pan to see what color is on the other side, as we learned in sauté week. Now that the chicken has been cooking for a while, you can see the edge of the chicken touching the pan at a certain color. You can flip it because it's the color that is being seen on the other side. And you know what color the chicken is. It's nice and crispy, and you want to keep it that way. I noticed that the pan is getting a little hot, so I've already turned it down. And we're just going to cook the other side, and the internal temp should be around 160. And then I'll carry over cook to 165. Okay, now we're going to temp the chicken. You want to make sure that you go on the fat side in the middle and in the middle of the chicken. These are instant read thermometers, so sometimes you might need, right now it's at 133. We'll give it a few more minutes, and then we will temp it again. Once the chicken is to temp, take your chicken out of your pan, lower the heat, and place the chicken on the side. You can place your chicken in your salamander that's turned off, or your broiler that's turned off. Okay? You're going to use the same oil that's in the pan and sweat your garlic. Right now my heat is off. I'm going to add my garlic. I turned off the heat because I want this spawn, but I know the pan is really hot, so it's just enough heat to sweat the garlic, and you can see all the liquid evaporating. The number one thing that will burn when you cook garlic is that sugar content in the garlic. So I want it to cook a little bit more. As I can see that the heat is dying, I'm just gonna turn it on a really low setting so that I can make sure that all these garlic pieces cook off. And the initial cooking of the garlic at this point is important, because if you don't cook this part as well as in the wine part, it will not cook all the way. It will be crunchy at the end, or raw. It's okay if it lightly has some golden in it, as long as it's not brown. I'm gonna turn my flame off and go ahead and deglaze with the white wine. It's very important that you turn the heat off and then deglaze the pan. Turn your heat back on and go ahead and make sure you get all that fond that's on the pan right now. Okay, you want to reduce the wine by half. Once you start seeing it reduce, you want the wine to look a little dry. So you want to cook it to the point where there's very little liquid in the pan. I've turned up the heat to move along this step. And you want it off-sec, which is just almost dry. And I'm constantly stirring so that the garlic cooks evenly, as well as I can get any extra fond off the pan. Is always a good thing for the sauce. It's developing flavor. And this process should be really cooking your garlic a little bit more. Still has quite a bit of liquid. We want it almost dry. If your pan ever gets too hot to handle, you might want to hold it with a towel. And it's recommended to hold it at the neck of the pan so you have more control. Okay, at this point, we're gonna go ahead and add the chicken stock. You can turn the heat back up to try to get the stock warmed up. Make note at where the level of stock is, and we're gonna reduce by half. Right now we're waiting for the chicken stock to reduce by half, so I have a little bit at high heat. This will be the only time that I'm letting it boil a little heavier than normal. But once I add the cream and the butter, I'm gonna be changing the heat back down to medium and not cooking it this hard. If you cook it this hard, it will end up breaking. So we're just waiting a little bit longer for the stock to reduce. We're reduced by half at this point. I've lowered down the heat to calm the heat down a little. And now I'm going to add the cream. Give it a little stir. You can turn up the heat just a little bit just to bring the cream to a simmer. Now the cream has been simmering, and I've been stirring it this whole time that it's been reducing. We're at a point where we're going to add the cold butter. Okay, and you don't need all the butter. You might only need 3/4 of it, depending on how your sauce looks. Let's give it a little bit more of a stir. You can see the consistency of the cream and stock. And add the butter. I'm going to go ahead and add the first half. And you want to stir and emulsify the butter in. Make sure the butter is cold so that it emulsifies like slowly into the sauce. You can turn down your heat. You don't want this boiling after this point of adding the butter. We're going to add in a little bit more butter. You can see that the sauce is thickening and coating the rubber spatula well. Continually stirring the butter into the sauce. Okay. At this point, if the sauce looks like it's getting to the thick point that I would like, I'm going to go ahead and add the chives and the parsley that's cut up. And you want to make sure you add the herbs to the sauce while it's still hot, opening up any aromatics that the herbs have. You can turn this down. Go ahead and get your chicken. Add it to the pan. Okay. Give it a little stir. light